Had a chance to say hello to some of the faces I'm seeing in the room, but I'm looking forward to it. Phil, thank you. Yeah. Look at all you. You guys look great. I wish you could all be up here right now and see how the room looks. It's fantastic. So welcome, everybody. Welcome. If you look around this room, what you'll also see is there's 17 out of 19 countries that we are currently operating in represented in this room. It's amazing. And last year was a year of many accomplishments. It really was. But sometimes when you're in it, you don't get to really see what all we've done together. Les Brown, a motivational speaker, once said that you can't see the full picture when you're standing in the frame. So I want to share a little bit about when you're looking at the frame from outside of it. I've had the tremendous privilege over the last year to do a little bit of traveling and be at facilitator conferences in the UK. I was down in Australia for the Australia-New Zealand conference. I was over in Germany for the German conference. I also had the great privilege with Dave Scarola to be with the top tier down in New Orleans. And it was great. And I wish that each of you actually could have been with us in sharing these experiences and see firsthand what is going on and what great work is being done all around this world. This weekend, though, we're all here together, and I think that's pretty fantastic. We're here to learn, and we're here to share, and we're here to build our individual business as well as build a much greater global community. So I hope everyone here is looking forward to it as much as I am. So if you'll indulge me just for a little bit, I just want to share a few of the accomplishments that have been achieved since the last time we all got together. First off, it's TAB's 28th year of doing business. A major milestone for any business, I'm sure you'll all agree. I mean, Alan's vision from way back then was when his first board was in St. Louis, Missouri, was to really help business owners and other business leaders achieve their business and personal vision by running peer boards and coaching. And to that end, I'm really happy to say that we continued our expansion around the globe. We've successfully launched in Mexico. Last week, we just signed, and you're all hearing it now for the first time, and we'll be entering Spain. Unfortunately, Oliver is unable to be at the conference right now. And we've also have our second partner in France. And I'd like to introduce you. Was Pierre in the room? Pierre, please stand up. Please say hello to Pierre. Yeah. And please welcome our partners in Mexico City. Luis, Daniel, Sergio, please stand up, get recognized. Yeah. Please make sure you spend some time with these folks. Give them the warm community hello. So around this time last year, we asked our community to take a survey and participate in the Franchise Business Review Survey. It's a third party that we use to ask all of you folks, how are we doing? What areas are we doing well in? What areas are we not? Where should we spend our time? Where should we spend our focus? I want to thank all of you who took the time to actually take that survey. It means an extremely amount of great value to us, and it helps us develop our strategic plan. So please continue to do so when you have the opportunity. I also want to thank the FAB Council, because the FAB Council also went through the survey results with us as we developed that strategic plan for the new year. So please join me in thanking the FAB Council for helping us out with that. They also do a great job in helping us stay on top of it and stay accountable to that plan, so that's really very helpful. So the results of last year's survey, which I'm happy to say, showed progress in every single area of our business, and that was great news. And this allowed us to actually win one of the 50 spots of the overall satisfaction by Franchise Business Review, who's the leading industry surveyor of franchise systems, and they surveyed hundreds of them. So that was a real great honor for us to win. Now, clearly, we have a lot of work to do, but I want you all to be rest assured that we are going to be committed to making sure that happens. Now, in a few weeks, you're also going to receive another survey from Franchise Business Review. I urge you once again, take that survey, complete it when it comes to your email box, because we take it very seriously, and we're about to take on the strategic planning process for next year. Speaking of surveys, every couple of years, we also survey our membership. And the results of this year's survey were the best they've ever been since we started surveying our membership 6 years ago. Do me a favor, please put up the survey results from the membership survey. This is not the ones. But these are still very interesting statistics that I wanted to share with you. 1 out of every 10 people think that HTML is a sexually transmitted disease. And 51% of us believe that stormy weather will affect cloud accounting. But what really surprised me is that 43% of the Canadians actually prefer bacon to sex. So all I want to know is, what's in that bacon? I love bacon. Anyway, put up the real survey results. Our members told us that in 2017, that they grew their sales revenue 25% greater than the average statistics of a privately held business owner. And this is a global statistic because multiple countries in our system participate in it. Now, when you compare these numbers to the average growth of privately held businesses, at least in the US, that's a massive 2.5 times greater. Our membership told us that it's pretty clear that if they're part of TAB, they are 2.5 times better off than not being on a board. Now, in that package or the bag that we gave you, you'll notice there's a pin in there, and it says 2.5X on it. Wear it. Wear it proudly. Wear it in your local community, and start the conversation about how TAB is able to support and benefit TAB business owners. Now, we all know that not every member is focusing on revenue growth. But the survey also conveyed to us that our members in the same survey had major improvement when it comes to work-life balance. They also told us that they've had substantial improvement when it comes to dealing with operational issues. Now, just like the Franchise Business Review survey, every area in our membership survey showed improvement. Our members gave us a 9 out of 10 in our Net Promoter Score, a score that determines customer loyalty and whether or not they feel comfortable referring ourselves to others. Now, if you were to look at the Net Promoter Score formula, our number was a 66, which might seem low to folks when you look at it out of 100, but it isn't. Other brands like Amazon, Apple, BMW, Cadillac, they have similar scores to ours. So a 66 as a Net Promoter Score is an extremely high score. And these results reflect all of your hard work out in your local business community. So congratulations and thank you. Give yourself a round of applause. It's impressive. It represents your passion for helping business owners achieve their business and also their life desires. So it's really great news. Now, with so much to celebrate, I would love to put out a challenge to all of us. How many of us next year when we're together will be able to say that we've improved our own revenues by 2.5 times? Who's going to be able to say they did it when we're here together? Now, in order to do this, though, we're going to have to be willing to take the advice that we give to our members, aren't we? Now, why is it, when you really think about it, that a licensed plumber is more likely to have a leaky faucet in his own home? You know? Well, the theory goes that if that licensed plumber is out there every day fixing other people's problems day in, day out, by the time he gets home to his own place, I'll handle it some other day. Well, we see that as well in our own business. Like the saying goes, hey, take my advice. I'm not using it. Why is that remedy that we prescribe to business owners seem to also be the toughest pill for all of us to swallow ourselves? Are we like the plumbers with a leaky faucet? Has that drip, drip, drip of what we must do in our own business, and we know what we must do because we tell our business owners all the time and we've showed great success, been put off? Have we forgotten about it? Last year, if you recall, I spoke about be, do, have. And what I was saying is, if we start being the person that we want to be in the future, then we'll be doing what successful people do right now in our businesses. And then and only then will we be able to have what we really want. Well, today I'd like to build on that concept a little bit. You see, when you really break this down, each of our individual successes, or their lack thereof, is built off of 3 key components: our mindset, our skill set, and our activity. Do we agree with that? So how do we analyze the success equation in the most effective manner? Now, many of us are already doing this. When we're working with our members, aren't we always helping them stay positive, stay focused, stay with a forward-thinking mindset? We are. And aren't we always challenging our members to continuously improve their individual skills as well as their organizational skills? Of course, that's what we do. And don't we also ensure that they should be doing the correct activities at the right time in order for them to move their company forward and accomplish the goals that they've set out for themselves? That's what we do. And maybe that's exactly why this equation makes so much darn sense to me. So a good question to ask ourselves is, when we're not achieving the success that we want for our own individual businesses, which part of the success equation might be missing? Which one of these might need a little bit more attention? And how can we consistently strive to deliver those in those areas at what we would call a level 10? Great. So let's drill down on them one at a time. I'd like to start with the first part of the equation, which is mindset. Now, for all you history buffs out there, can anyone tell us what happened May 6, 1954? Anybody? No? Yeah, Dougie?
I was born there.
Ah. Yeah. And that, folks, thank you very much. Dougie. No, May 6, 1954.
What a disappointment.
In May 6, 1954, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, a record that many people, including some scientists, said were absolutely impossible to do. Now, that elusive 4-minute mile was being chased around the globe for nearly a half a century. It became as much of a psychological barrier as a physical one. It was like going up to an unconquerable mountain, and the closer that you came to it, the more daunting that it actually became. Now, that elusive 4-minute mile was broken by Roger Bannister. Now, after Roger Bannister broke that 4-minute mile, who knows what happened next? What's that? Yeah. John Landy broke the 4-minute mile and Bannister's record in that very same year. That next year, 3 more runners broke that 4-minute mile in the same race. And over the next 5 years, 20 runners broke that 4-minute mile. Now, that 4-minute mile is considered routine. So let me ask you something. After that 4-minute mile fell, did all of a sudden we become superhuman? No, of course not. What happened was that people believed it was possible, which made it possible. So does mindset really impact our businesses? Does it impact the economics of our businesses? I think it's pretty clear. Of course it does. Last year, I challenged an organization to demand the fees that we deserve for delivering the incredible value of the service that we deliver to our members. We discussed that we are way under market value for what we do, and that we, especially compared to so many of our competitors who don't have nearly as strong as an offering as we do. Well, I'm happy to say to you today that we really did make some progress in this. We had a 31% improvement in the number of members who are now paying a greater of 690 euros a month for their membership. If I was to put that into US dollars, that would be $800 a month. We doubled the amount of tab business owners whose average dues are now greater than 540 pounds a month. That's on average, if you would go to US dollars again, $700 a month. So we are making progress in this area. Belief is starting to set in. You're starting to ask for what we deserve for the services in which we deliver. Keep it going. Our newer tab business owners are typically charging significantly higher than the average of our global average around the world, because their mindset doesn't carry the same baggage. We're not set with the same limitations that some of us older folks may have. And a possible 4-minute mile for all of us is for us to have an average dues of $1,000 a month. Who's going to be the first? I see several people in here that I know can be. Now, perhaps some of us believe that our situation is different, that we have some real limitations that are holding us back that others might not have. And I get that. We've all heard people say that their territory is difficult. It's more challenging to market than others. And that's true. Not every market is exactly the same. Not every market is fair even. But let's take India, for example. These folks can't even buy a business list of any sort over in India. LinkedIn is barely developed enough where it could be effective over there. But Ramesh and Bharti and Ravi, they persisted. They remained super focused and positive, and now they have over 30 members in tab boards, and they're growing quickly, and they're paying an average dues of what would be the equivalent here of $960 a month in India. Perhaps some of us don't have the energy that we once had. I feel this myself, definitely for some time to time. And then I stop and I say, you know what? I think of my buddy Ray Brunn. That's Ray Brunn. That's Sharon and Jan at the walk with Ray, by the way, this year. It was great. Now, does Ray have the ultimate reason to not work the business from time to time? Of course he does. Parkinson's is a powerful challenge, but he gets it done. And after speaking with Dave Scarola recently, he was telling David that he's still doing all of his prospecting. And then he kind of cracked a joke with him. He said, but I tell you, David, when my slur, it sure does make these prospects uncomfortable. But he doesn't care. He's out there doing it, Ray, and you're absolute inspiration to all of us. Yeah. You really are. Now, these are just a couple examples of inspiration from our community, and there are so many more sitting here, right here in this room. Now, there are two types of beliefs that are going to allow us to create a level 10 mindset. Belief in tab, right? And if there was any doubt at all, these statistics that our members are telling us about what we do and what we deliver and what our members are getting out of it should erase any doubt whatsoever from your mind. And then, of course, there's belief in ourselves. So when we're thinking about our mindset, what does a level 10 mindset look like? Well, you know people like this in this room. It's being 100% accountable to their successes and their maybe not such great situations. By being a victor, and I talked about that last year if you recall, but it's worth repeating because we are an organization of victors. We practice ownership, accountability, and responsibility. And we shun and we push off, and we don't ever entertain victim speak, which is about, blame, excuses, and denial. A level 10 mindset is being service-oriented and asking, how can I best serve this person, not how can I best sign up this person. It's about being grateful, right? Science has truly told us that gratitude significantly increases our own happiness, protects us from anxiety, negativity. We should be cataloging the successes that we've had with our members, that our colleagues have had with members. We should connect to them, reflect on them, and be able to communicate them with stories. We need to surround ourselves with forward-thinking, success-minded people. And remember that all of us are the average of our 5 closest colleagues. And we have to have a growth mindset. Many of you might have read the book by Carol Dweck, where she contrasted a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So I'd like to spend a little time talking about that. See, a fixed mindset, just like my friend Eeyore over here, see, they believe that they're either good at it or they're not. There's nothing's going to change that. That's the way it is. They don't like to be challenged. They resent it. They'll avoid it. When they fail, they conclude, I guess I'm just not good at it. When they're frustrated, they give up. They don't push through. They don't persevere. And if they see someone else is successful, they feel threatened. They also view that their ability determines everything about their success. But now let's contrast that to a growth mindset. People with a growth mindset are very different. See, they believe that they could do anything they want to. They just have to learn it. It might take some time, might have to persist on it. They want to be challenged. They go seek challenge. They're motivated by it. When they fail, they conclude, hey, I just learned something and I'm better than I was before. When they get frustrated, they don't give up. They push through. They persevere. It's a major difference. When they see someone else is successful, they get inspired. They get motivated. They feel challenged. And unlike the fixed mindset, where ability is everything, someone with a growth mindset will tell you that their effort and their attitude is everything that will determine their success. It's a big difference. So let's take a look at the other side of the equation, skill set. Skill set and mindset have a really important connection. I think everybody would agree. Mindset, people with a growth mindset, they're open to new ideas. They are always willing to learn something new and improve their skill set. Let's use marketing for example. 20 years ago, many of us in this room would probably be able to say we were a level 10 when it came to marketing. But over the years, if we did not continue to improve our game, evolve with the new technology and the trends like social media, search engine advertising, today we might be what? A 3 or 4. So being up to date with TAB's tools and innovations is an important part of us all being at a level 10 as a community. Not to mention, it's what we all talked about building a strong brand in a community. It's also what we agreed to when we talked about and discussed the TAB way just 2 years ago. Now, Stephen Covey, he tells a really interesting story, cool story, I should say. He told us about a man who was walking through the forest, and he came across a really frustrated lumberjack. Now, this isn't a frustrated lumberjack, but I found him adorable. All right? So let's just roll with this photo just for the moment, okay? Now, this lumberjack was trying to cut down trees and was swearing and cursing, and as he labored in vain. And then the man says, hey, what's the problem? And the lumberjack says, my saw's blunt, and I won't cut down the tree properly. He says, okay, but why don't you just sharpen your saw? The lumberjack says, well, I can't, because then I have to stop sawing. He says, yeah, but if you stop and you sharpen your saw, you'll be much more efficient, you'll be much more effective. I don't have time to stop, and the lumberjack barked back even more angry. But since he's so cute, he kind of took it. The man just shook his head, walked away, and he said, I'm going to leave this man to his pointless and, quite frankly, unnecessary frustration. See, the story, though, is relevant to us in this way. Why should we all continue to earn? Especially if we've been successful in a previous career, especially if our TAB business was more successful a few years ago. Well, a big reason is the market is changing. By 2030, millennials are going to outnumber the boomers by 22 million people. This is our future market. The world around us is changing, and we need to be evolving with it. Let's use communication just as an example. Boomers' communication style is what? The phone, right? The Gen X was email and text. The millennials, who, by the way, I think this may surprise some folks, a millennial could be as old as 40 years old right now. So these are not like little kids anymore. They're 40 years old. They're owning businesses. Their way of communication is social media and chat. How many of us in this room can say that they are effectively communicating with the millennials today? This is how they're doing it. I'd like to share with you just a quick story about where I was surprised that I was way out of touch, because I kind of thought that I'm hip, I'm up to speed. But some of you know that I have a couple of boys, and my eldest is about to be heading off to college in the not too distant future. Anyway, he was supposed to be doing his homework last year, and he wasn't. And so I got really, upset with him, and I said, Jake, get downstairs and do your homework, and I don't want to hear another thing about it, right? So Jake goes down to the lower level, starts doing his homework, right? 45 minutes later, I walk past the lower level, and I hear all this talking. And I'm like, son of a gun. So I go downstairs, I'm ready to take Jake to task. And I walk down there, and there's Jake totally spread on the floor, doing all of his work, studying, nose in the books, no doubt about it. But at the same time, his computer was open, and there were 6 other students in this room, and they're all doing their homework. And they're talking to each other, different subjects, and as someone had a problem, they kind of worked with each other and they helped them out. I was like, whoa, the world is changing. So how do we get to a levels 10 skill set? We have to evolve. We need to change and grow to respond to our changing marketplace. In fact, that's what we all agreed to with the Tab Way. We committed to lifelong learning to improve our knowledge base, our perspectives, and our own self-awareness. Are we doing it? We embrace Tab innovations. We embrace Tab tools and processes as we grow and build our own businesses. See, these areas together, they're important not only to constantly be sharpening our saws, but to also stay in touch with the ever-changing market conditions. The fact is that the only place where earning comes before learning is in the dictionary. And the truth is, in order to earn more, we all must learn more. So how do we determine, how do we figure out what skill set that we have to improve or adopt first? Well, it starts by taking a real inward look at ourselves and figuring out where we're weakest in. Do a SWOT analysis and take a look at your strengths and weaknesses. Ask yourself, am I weak or am I strong as it applies to social media? Am I competent or less so when it comes to the blueprint, the best one out there in the market today? Am I great or not so great when conducting events? And how effective, how powerfully am I able to handle myself in the sales conversation? And one of the very best ways for all of us to improve is to ask for feedback. Feedback from your members after your coaching sessions and your board meetings. Feedback from your peer boards and your fellow Tab business owners in the community. Now, I know a lot of learning happens at the conferences over lunch, over dinner, and at the bar. Introduce yourself. Introduce yourself to Tab owners that you might not know. Offer to buy them a drink. I promise you that the Palms or the English, they'll do anything for you if you get them a pint. Look, you got Ed, you got Tom Morton, you got Dougie. I don't know where Mags loves a good pint. I don't even know where she is. But ask each other, talk to each other. And lastly, get a coach. Remember last year we introduced the Pay It Forward program? We had some nice successes in that program. And the point is, though, pair up with another Tab business owner who's a victor, not a victim, right? Because there are Tab business owners in our community that are absolutely willing to mentor you. All you have to do is ask. And if you don't know who to ask, let us know. We will make sure we find someone for you. All that we ask in return, as being part of the community that we are in, is that when you are finally in a position to mentor someone, you give that generosity back. This is what will move us towards a level 10 skill set. And last, let's look at the activity part of the equation. This is the doing part of the equation. This means doing enough activity, taking enough action that's going to give us the opportunity for all of us to be successful. There's an African parable that I think really speaks well to activity level, and maybe you know it. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up, and it knows it must run faster than the fastest lion, or it's going to be killed. Every morning, a gazelle wakes up. A lion wakes up, I should say, I'm sorry. And knows that it must outrun the slowest gazelle, or it's going to starve to death. You see, it doesn't matter whether or not you're a lion or a gazelle. What matters is, when the sun comes up, you better be running. And that's really relevant to all of us. Are we running when we wake up? And what holds us back from doing the activity that we all know we need to do in order to build a successful business? Well, after speaking to so many of the people in our community, it became pretty clear. It's either the lack of results from some previous activity, fear itself, or a lack of motivation. And in many cases, it's a combination of all or some multiple parts of that, all three. Now, if we're not performing a certain activity because we didn't get the results previously, have we stopped? Have we stopped to consider that whether or not our mindset or our skill set was not at the correct level to be effective? or even if that was the right activity that we're doing, period. You see, the truth is it takes time. It takes time for any of us to master new skills. Experts will tell you that it takes about 20 hours just to learn something new. 20 hours. That would be 45 minutes a day for a month. Not to be masterful, but just to be, say, I learned it and I'm okay at it. So did we give up too early? No matter what area in our lives, no matter what area in our members' lives, to make this type of change means stepping outside of our comfort zone, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. It means that we need to have the willingness to persevere as we gain a level of competency to the results of the activity that we're taking on. And a great reminder of perseverance came out of a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Maybe some of you read it. And he tells us a true story about R.U. Harvey. Now, R.U. Harvey had gold fever, and he actually staked his claim right here in Colorado. And after a lot of hard work, he found a vein of ore. And this was really exciting. So he went out there and he raised a ton of money in order to be able to buy all the machinery he needed to drill. Things started off great. He was finding a lot of gold, and he had enough gold at this point to pay off all of his debts. Then at some point, it stopped, right? There was no more gold. So they kept digging and digging and digging. And they kept looking for that vein. And eventually they got so frustrated, he said, forget it. We're out of here. And he sold all of his machinery for a few $100 to a junk man. That junk man, though, called up an engineer. He had him inspect that mine or whatever that is that they do with gold mines digging. Right? Bill might be able to help me with that. All right? And he found out that just 3 feet away, they felt there was gold there. That junk man went on to make millions. And that was a really tough lesson for Darby to learn. But he did learn, right? He learned that he needed to persevere, push through difficulties, and stay focused. And he went on to be a very successful business person. Now, whenever any of us here are feeling like giving up on our dream, we need to remember that we might just be 3 feet away from gold. We might just be 5 members away from the success that we're looking for. Now, I love this story for a couple of reasons. One, it's a true story. And two, because I think we can all, in this room, recall a time where we gave up too soon, where we let somebody else outgrit us. I know that I have, probably more than I'd like to admit. And let's be candid. Sometimes it is okay to quit. Sometimes we need to quit. But there are probably way more times in life where the name of the game is sheer perseverance, that we have to keep digging, keep learning, keep believing, and get grittier than the next guy. Because just on the other side of that door, there is gold. Now, when it comes to membership acquisition, you could ask anybody in this room who's successful at membership acquisition, and they will all tell you unanimously and loudly that perseverance is the name of the game. Do we agree with that? Now, here are some stats that may surprise you. According to the National Executive Sales Association, did you realize that 2% of appointments are made on the first contact? 2% on the first contact. Now, this is also consistent with what our results here with our telemarketing and in other places around the world. But a staggering 80% of appointments are made on the 5th to 12th contact. Whoa. 44% of us, though, will quit after the first attempt. So what I want everyone to do is think about the business owners that we have met, prospecting and building our boards. There are probably quite a few of them that got away that you know in your gut would be great members. Go back to them. Tell them about our new statistics of 2.5 times. Ask them to be a guest advisor. Call them. Ask them to sit on a sample board. Because more often than not, your perseverance is going to pay off. What about fear? As an example, do we stop ourselves from making owner-to-owner calls because we're fear of rejection? Owner-to-owner calls have become an excellent and important part of membership recruitment. Ben Keller, our success coach in TAB, he organizes multiple owner-to-owner call sprint meetings. And it's also happening in other parts of the world too. And what happens on these calls is that TAB business owners all call into a group. They talk about their goals for the next 2 hours of making these owner-to-owner calls. They talk about any issues, challenges. They clear out some of the head trash. And then they go off and they make owner-to-owner calls for a couple of hours. And then what happens, they come back on the call. They talk about their challenge. They talk about their successes. And there are a lot of successes. And they discuss their results and they get motivated and inspired. You see, just knowing that we're not alone often alleviates that fear. You see, we all join tab to be in business for ourselves, like they say, but we're not. We are not, as a community, by ourselves. Teaming up with each other, leveraging the community, and as the old adage says, together, everyone achieves more. But everyone in this room knows that. We know that our members together achieve more, 2.5 times more, in fact. So, our team is the community. We need to use it. We need to leverage it to achieve our success individually and together. And maybe the toughest barrier to overcome is what? Motivation or procrastination. We all struggle with that. But I'm here to tell you that I think we know how to resolve this problem. The concept here is, if you've ever heard of it, are you familiar with the old saying, eat that frog? Right? You know, the concept is if you eat that alive frog in the morning, just knowing that you did the worst thing you could possibly do in the morning, the rest of your day is going to be fantastic. Eating the frog is a metaphor. It's a metaphor for tackling the most challenging task of your day. The one thing that you're most likely to procrastinate on, but also the one thing that might have the greatest impact on your business and possibly your life. You not only will get things done faster, but you're going to get the right things done. And then, of course, there's motivation. Now, a few years ago, I knew that I needed to start exercising. My mindset was, reasonably good. My skill set was at least good enough to get my fat ass off the couch. But I was finding it really difficult to get myself really getting into action. I was almost doing anything else to avoid it. But then I was approached by a group of friends, and they asked me to run this really silly race with them. It's called a Tough Mudder, okay? And for those of you who know what a Tough Mudder is, it's about a 10 to 12 mile run. It's in the mud. It's an obstacle course, and it tests your endurance, your strength, your mental endurance, all that. Now, as a high I was like, yeah, guys, I want to hang out with you. That'd be great. It'd be so much fun. As a high D, I was like, I like that challenge. We'll be fantastic. Suddenly, I didn't find the same excuses that I had. I had people who were depending on me. I made a commitment to a team. And on top of that, I had a deadline. I had to be race ready in just 12 weeks. And I looked forward to training with my pals. I looked forward to holding each other accountable and them holding me accountable. And I didn't want to let them down. And I'm pleased to tell you that we all completed the race successfully and together as a team. And we had great pride, tremendous amount of pride with the accomplishments that we did. Now, just like everyone in this room and our members, who is the first person that we're willing to disappoint? Who? Ourselves. Absolutely. And who's the last person that you're willing to disappoint? Pretty much anybody else. You make a commitment to him. For me, it was my son. Okay? I made a commitment with my son, and we decided that we're going to do this together. Now, the point that I'm trying to make here is that we all have someone in our life. We all have someone that will help us stay accountable, that we don't want to disappoint or let down. Identify them. Make your commitment to them. But clearly, one of the easiest places for us to find accountability is in our peer board, particularly the ones that are discussing KPIs. And the majority of us as a community now are sitting on a peer board. And for those who are not, assuming you're not pretty new, one thing I can say is, come on, man. Let's go. Now, do we have to do 2.5 times the activity to get 2.5 times the results? No, I don't think so. Especially if the 2.5 times we're more effective in that. We're being accountable to our commitments, and we've improved our mindset as well as our skill set. In other words, if we have worked hard to improve our success equation, we should exponentially improve our success. So what does a level 10 activity look like? Well, it starts by having a written goal and sharing it. We all know it, but a lot of us don't do it. There have been numerous studies that show that having this goal regularly written down and sharing it will substantially increase your ability to be successful. 42% more likely to be exact. And next, develop an activity plan. Know how much work you need to do in each of the areas to accomplish your membership goals. And you don't have to be too hard to figure this out. We have a great tool called the Business Navigator. Use it. It'll tell you exactly where you need to be and what you have to be doing. And lastly, block out time for business development, something that we seem to avoid. All of our successful TAB business owners always have business development on their schedule. If you look at their calendars, it's not just filled with coaching and meeting and consulting gigs. It's networking events. It's meeting with prospects. So we've talked about mindset. We've talked about skill set. And we've talked about activity. Now, these ingredients aren't just necessary for building a successful business, is it? These are also the same ingredients for running or leading a successful life. Now, we all have our own definition of what a successful life looks like. And maybe and hopefully you've all written that down in your own personal vision statement. But one definition really jumped out at me recently. It was by Paulo Gallo of the World Economic Forum. And his father gave him some advice years ago before he went to school one morning. And he said to his son, he says, Paulo, starting tomorrow, don't talk about what you did, but ask yourself what you've learned. If you've helped other people, and if you love what you're doing, because nothing else matters. Now, this sounds to me a lot like mindset, skill set, and activity. Now, I know that I'm biased. But I think that we're all very fortunate to be able to provide what we do to the TAB members in which we serve. See, Gallo's father says, what have you learned? In TAB, we have the opportunity every single day that we're doing our business, learning something new. He says, what have you helped other people? And with TAB, we help our members and their businesses in their lives as just a normal course of what we do every single day. This helps their employees, their families, their community. Our impact is massive. He goes on to ask, do you love what you're doing? And when TAB prospects come in for Discovery Day, I have to admit that I never tire hearing from that they've come here and they found the culmination of all their career right here in TAB. And this passion doesn't dissipate. Because we consistently hear that TAB business owners love what they're doing. And they would do it all over again, as they tell us every year in our survey. You see, doing what we love, learning something new, and making a difference, that's impressive. So throughout this conference, I ask each of us to identify specific actions that we all need to improve our own individual success equation. Be generous with each other. Help each other improve their mindset, their skill set, and their activity. And I'll wrap this up with a really great quote by Gandhi. He said, keep your thoughts positive, because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words positive, because your words will become your behavior. Keep your behavior positive, because your behavior becomes your habits. And keep your habits positive, because your habits become your values. And keep your values positive, because your values will become your destiny. Folks, thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to spending time with you. Have a great conference.